so excited to do another live chat with you guys today. So today I am joined by Sarah Kingstone. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, Diana. How are you?
I'm good. This is great. You're the second guest that kind of just got how all of this works, and it's a seamless transition.
Well, that's good because I was sitting here just trying to breathe deeply, being like, okay, get
Yeah.
ready.
I'm so excited to talk to you about this topic of energy management today because you and I briefly talked about it when we first connected, and we
Yeah.
have both agreed that the management of our energy level, of our emotions, is something it's so key to everyone's lives. Yet it's something that people don't really realize or don't really talk about. As I'm talking to you here today, I'm actually feeling very depleted. My energy level, I've noticed this week, has been just such an overwhelming week, and I noticed that I'm not showing up in the way that I want to, whether it's at work or in my relationships. And I'm like, this is such a timely conversation because I think people are feeling just really overwhelmed, especially as the world is opening up. People are like going back to school, going back to like in person, like office work, and they're juggling so many different things, especially at the same time they have to deal with all that uncertainties and anxieties and stress with like COVID, and just not 100% sure what's going to happen in the future. So I thought this was such a timely discussion, and I'm so glad to do it with you. Before we dive in, we have some really great questions, and anyone joining in, please feel free to drop your questions into the comment section. We'll answer them as they come up. But I just want to do a quick introduction of Sarah, of your bio here on your profile page. You're a certified Be a Dime energy management coach, which I'm so interested to talk to you about what Be a Dime is. You're also a certified MBTI practitioner, a history, English, and social justice teacher with a passion for education, health, well-being, and complex challenges. And you got your Master's of Science degree in Education, Public Policy, and Equity from the University of Glasgow. So very happy to have you here with us today. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Diana. And I think it's so important to recognize that what you just did, which is to acknowledge how you are feeling, and to check in with yourself, and to recognize how you've been feeling this week, and maybe what some of the factors are that are influencing how you're feeling. I think that's so important. The first thing about energy management is awareness, like self-reflection and awareness. We have to be checking in with ourselves to know where we are in order to most effectively manage our energy. And I always get really energized talking about this and talking to you, as I've experienced in the past. So hopefully by the end of our conversation, we'll both be feeling lighter and more excited, more energized.
Totally. I actually already just kind of letting you know how I feel. That already makes me feel better. I think coming in, like feeling the load of this week of all the things I have to do. Literally, I was on the phone with someone and they asked me for my phone number and I forgot it, and that's never happened. And I was like, okay, I have a lot on my plate, and I think I'm really excited to talk to you about it and to see kind of what are some of the practical tips and hacks that we can do to really help us feel energized every day and to not feel depleted. But my first question is, what is energy management, and why is it important? I think that term has been used a lot, but what exactly is it?
Yes. So great question. I think we all know what energy is. We all know what management means, but when you put them together, it kind of sounds like maybe one of those fancy words that might not necessarily, mean what we think it means automatically. But it's a lifestyle. It's a training approach to how we live our lives that focuses specifically on the tangible ways that we can increase our energy and build our capacity, because it recognizes that when we feel more energized, like in the simplest form, when we feel positive, when we feel confident, when we feel good and happy and joyful, we feel more capable. And when we feel more capable, we are much more able to face challenges, to clarify how we're feeling and what we want from our life, what we want our life to look like. We're much more able to support those people around us. We're much more able to authentically engage with our present, and to have a clear understanding of what a compelling future looks like for us. And we're just so much more vibrant when we show up for ourselves and those around us. And I think it's really important because it emphasizes personal agency and personal empowerment and the choices that we can make on a daily basis to take care of ourselves, show up for ourselves so that we can face the world.
Yeah.
Because the world is hard.
The world is hard.
The world is hard.
Yeah, it is.
But we can make choices to either make it easier or make it harder. And I think, you know, in Western society, in lots of different cultures, in different organizations, et cetera, we make choices, or we're encouraged to make choices, or to set up the system so that it makes it harder instead of making it easier. And one of my kind of big long-term goals through energy management is to teach people and support people about personal empowerment and personal capacity so that we can make some pretty significant systemic changes, because I think that's really what it's cyclical.
Amazing. And so kind of this ties into my second question. So you are a Be a Dime coach. So what is Be a Dime? What does that mean?
So the Be a Dime energy management program or training program was designed by an old family friend of ours, Jill Payne, and we have been working with her for a while now on how to coach this. And the dime is just a simple representation of a 10, and the goal is to live your life as a 10 out of 10.
Is that possible?
I think that's such a fantastic question. This isn't to kind of put pressure on ourselves, like to say you always got to be the person, kicking down the door of the room that you're coming into with like confetti and pom poms and boosting everybody up. A 10 looks different for everybody. So for me, what my life looks like when I'm at a 10, I feel grounded and content and confident, and I'm inspired by the people around me. I'm inspired by what I'm learning, and I'm motivated to continue to learn more. So that's what a 10 looks like for me. And for me, every single day is truly an opportunity to practice increasing my energy. To say like you got to be at a 10 at all times, I feel like that's a pressure I'm not really prepared to take on. But it's about recognizing that every day and every moment I have an opportunity to increase my energy, to move towards a 10 and to move towards a life where I'm at a 10 more often than not.
So I think that's great that you brought that up. I think obviously everyone probably strives to be a 10, but life is hard, as you mentioned. And I think things happen, and sometimes, more times than others, especially with COVID now, a lot of our energy, both emotional and physical, are depleted, as as kind of the outset of this conversation. So what are some of the daily practices or techniques that we can easily implement? And you don't have to list all of it, but just a few maybe key top ones that you think people can do to really help us kind of raise that energy back up, and, or even to manage our emotional and physical energy levels.
Yeah, so you're right. There are so many things. And again, this is about like personal awareness and personal reflection. So figuring out, building an awareness of how you are feeling and where you are on what we call the dime scale. So a scale of 0 to 10, really simple representation that allows you to clarify a little bit or have a visual for your energy management. And just to back up a little bit, the really tricky part is like being at a 5, because a 5 is like, I'm pretty hopeful that things are going to turn out okay, but I'm not feeling great, but I'm not feeling horrible. And unfortunately, we live a lot of our life at that place.
Right. I think there's a term I heard, like it's called like languishment, where you're like neither like hopeful, but you're also not hopeless. You're just kind of like in that stagnant state where you just like,
exactly.
Which is like where a lot of us are in right now.
Right. And again, yeah, that languishing is the implication is like you're just kind of letting things pass you
Right.
by, which is, yeah, it's unfortunate, and it feels so much better to feel, you know, like you have the capacity to do to engage with the life in front of you, and to make choices that align with what you really want, so that so that the life around you aligns with the things that truly make you happy. And so, you know, one of the acronym that we use to simplify and kind of categorize like the tangible things that you can do is BFD, which stands for body, focus, and dialogue, or be a freaking dime. You could exchange another word for the F, but depending on how spicy you're feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, simplified into body, focus, and dialogue. So body is the first one, because, you know, that's what we bring into the room, that's what we show up in the world with, right? And often for a lot of people, it's like the simplest kind of place to start, and it's a great place to start. And it's not about, you know, working out super hard every day, or like going and doing CrossFit training, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's about what can you do with your body, how are you holding your body, and what can you do with your body to make yourself feel more energized. So are you standing up tall? Are you presenting yourself as a strong and confident person when you come into a room? How is your breathing? Is your breathing like up in your chest, which is, you know, a reflection that our parasympathetic nervous system is not engaged? How do you speak to people? Like, what do you do with your voice? How do you project your voice to tell yourself that you feel strong and confident and capable? And how does that reflect out into the world? The F, focus, is what are you focusing on? Like, what is your mind fixated on for most of the day? And that can be very important to check in with. And then dialogue. What is your internal dialogue saying to you, and how are you speaking to other people? So those are the three kind of categories of checking in. And again, it's about asking yourself those questions. So developing that personal awareness and self-reflection. And then, you know, there's so many different ways that you can just tweak, you know, if you have 30 seconds before you walk into a meeting, or before you walk into a classroom, if you have to teach, or if you're going to school, or if you have, you know, 30 minutes or 15 minutes, 30 minutes, like there's so many different options. You know, my favorite is, like, before I showed up today, making sure that I did some moving. So I turned on some music and danced for 5 minutes. And then before I came on the call, I just did some deep breathing to engage my, you know, parasympathetic nervous system, make sure that I felt calm and focused, and making sure that my internal dialogue is positive affirmations. Yeah. So again, it's about personal reflection and finding the things that are important for you. And none of it is to say, you know, like, oh, you've got a really busy life. You've got so many things that are putting demands on you. You should be taking, you know, an hour and a half for yourself in the morning to boost your energy. Like, that's going to, for so many people, that's going to be another massive commitment that, you know, makes them feel more overwhelmed. But
that's a great point that you brought up, like being aware. Like, for instance, I mentioned this morning, I was kind of already feeling really anxious and have a lot of anxiety. And I was like, okay, if I try to power through my day and do all of these things, I know I'm not going to be able to do it 100%. And I'm already I'm already feeling depleted. So I was very aware of that. And obviously I also had the luxury to kind of take the morning, was like, I didn't have a lot of meetings. So I was like, okay, because of that, I'm just going to take the morning and really do whatever I needed to. So I did like a few meditations. I took my time getting ready and had like a cup of coffee. Obviously not everyone has a luxury to do that every day, but I was being very aware of, like, that is something that I needed, and that I can actually take the time to do it. I did that. And I think it really set the tone for the rest of the day and how I'm showing up, right? Because if I'm grumpy or I'm in a bad mood, it really shows. Like, even if I am not trying to do it direct, like intentionally do it, it just comes like indirectly. It just kind of carries like forward to like how I interact with people, how I talk to people. Even the emails I type, I think are the energy, right? I think it's all about energy, like energy transfers, right? And I think something that someone once told me, which I think is really true, you have to be responsible for the energy that, you know, you bring into a room, right? Because how you show up, it affects how other people are. So I always remember that I need to be, it's not just for my sake, it's really for the sake of other people. I need to be responsible of how I feel, because if I'm not feeling great, other people are not going to be feeling great either, because they will feel it. So
exactly. Yeah, it goes back to that. I think it's an investment mantra, but
yeah.
you have to pay yourself first.
Yes.
Because when you pay yourself first, especially for people who do work that is highly demanding, or you know, I think about especially educators and healthcare workers, like it's hard work. You are giving of yourself every minute of every day. If you don't pay yourself first, how do you pay other people? How do you give to other people? Especially in all the jobs where we really care about the work that we're doing, and we want to show up as our best self. Doing, you know, whatever small things that make you feel better. When you feel better, you feel like you have the capacity. And an important, like, kind of an additional little nuance to this is that when you feel like you have the capacity, it doesn't matter what the challenges are in front of you. It doesn't matter, you know, like, it doesn't matter if you're hungry, sick, lonely, or tired, you know, the HALT acronym, or any version of that. If you feel like you have the capacity to engage with the world, to be your best self, then that's the important piece. You know, you can still be tired, you can still be sick, you can still be, you know, facing some really significant challenges. But it's about showing up for yourself so that you feel like you have the capacity to be your best self.
And I think that self-empowerment piece is really important, because it doesn't become paralyzing. I think when people are confronted by challenges or heartbreaks or whatever, like, life is hard, right? Going back to that, I think when you do feel empowered, like you mentioned, having the capacity, you know that you can conquer whatever that's coming your way. It almost doesn't become, you know, because like for me, I used to feel paralyzed whenever I had to go through, you know, something happens, like something goes awry, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. But I don't really feel that way anymore. And I think it's being more attuned to how I feel and my power, and just feeling that, you know, being more empowered, and knowing that I have the capacity to conquer whatever that comes my way. But
recognizing that we can't control the external, but you can manage your energy. And when you manage your energy, you feel more capacity. You feel like you have more capacity. You feel more positive. You feel more confident. You feel, you know, more energized.
Yeah. So is there a tool or like an easy way we can kind of, you mentioned the dime scale that people can kind of like from 0 to 10. So is there something that people can easily do? Maybe like, you know, write in like their notebook, like every day, like, okay, am I on how do I, like, where do I rank in the scale? How am I feeling every day? Is that kind of a good sort of starting point? Or
yeah, definitely. I think as I said, you know, like developing that awareness, that practice of checking in with yourself, like, how's my energy? Like, how am I showing up in the world? Like, how does my body feel? What am I doing with my body? What am I focusing on? You know, am I focusing on that one, you know, comment that somebody made to me in that meeting that made me feel kind of yucky? Am I ruminating on that? Or am I focusing on, you know, something that brings me joy, something that I feel grateful for? And then what's my internal dialogue saying to myself? And a secondary kind of clue that you can get there is, how am I talking to other people? Because often they're really related. So yeah, checking in with your energy, and then asking yourself the questions to check in about body focus and dialogue, and recognizing that, you know, as it can be, you know, there's a variety of different concrete, like tangible exercises that we teach in energy management, but you know, the BFD stuff is pretty, you know, there's a lot of common sense in it, and there's a lot of, oh yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I know that, or I do a lot of that already. The key to experiencing the really significant benefits of it is practice. You know, like it's one of those things where try writing down 3 things that you're grateful for at the end of the day. Like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. Like, okay, well, you won't experience it as an effective tool if you don't do it. But if you do it for yourself personally, you feel that personal resonance, and then it might, you know, really be an important thing to integrate into your life. Or, you know, oh, I'm feeling so tired at the end of the day. I want to just lie on the couch and scroll through Instagram for an hour. That's going to make you feel more tired. And you don't have to go out for a long run, but can you go outside and, you know, breathe for 5 minutes and just feel the fresh air? Or, you know, can you go for a walk around the block, or walk to the mailbox, or, you know, put on some music and dance for 10 minutes? Like, what beyond, you know, the bigger kind of more time consuming things, what are some small things that you can do that will immediately increase your energy? Yeah. And with that increased energy, you know, sometimes we think like, oh, well, you know, if I expend this energy, then I won't have it. But energy management is much more about how, if you manage your energy, if you increase your energy, you feel more capacity, and you can it layers on top of each other.
That's so great. And actually what you just said reminded me of like this podcast I was listening to this morning. He was talking about, it was Jim Quick. He was talking about people glorify busyness. And it's like, he's like, when people tell me that they're busy, I don't think that they're important. I think you're not managing your time. You're not productive. You're not managing your time efficiently. I think to your point, if someone is feeling energized, you know, doing what they love, and they're actually able to be more productive and manage their time more efficiently. So I thought that was like kind of an interesting, I was like, oh, that reminded me of what Jim Quick said about the busyness, and everyone says they're busy, and but, you know, but I mean, we're coming to the end of this conversation, but there was one question I really wanted to ask you, is about emotions. You know, I think, you know, a lot of the times we get, you know, overtaken by emotions, whether good or bad. And I just kind of wanted to see, what is your take on not falling victim to our emotions and not letting it kind of take over us?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I mean, first of all, like, emotions are like a physiological state that is generated subconsciously. So we feel emotions regardless. Like, it's our body's natural response to external or internal stimuli. And so no, they can't be like good or bad. I think there are, you know, the emotions like fear is really, really deeply embedded. It's like, it's related to the oldest part of our brain. So it's incredibly powerful. And I think, again, similar to what I've said before, to start by acknowledging in a compassionate way, without judgment, the emotions that we are feeling is so important. You know, if you are feeling angry, if you are feeling afraid, if you are, you know, feeling something that you're like, this feels bad, or it feels really good, I'm just not really sure what it is, just acknowledging that without judgment, before you do anything, before you react to it, before you try to push it away, because emotions are really important clues, and emotions give us important information. It's our body trying to tell us something. What we teach in energy management is that emotions give us important information, but what we don't want to do is just be controlled by our emotions, because they are, you know, they can be intangible or unstable. Like our fearful response can be in response to a real physical or emotional threat, right? Like it stems from trying to keep us safe from the saber-toothed tigers.
Yeah.
So there could be a real threat, and it's important for us to acknowledge that and trust that. But also, when you think about watching a scary movie, you could be at home perfectly safe with people who love and care about you, but your body reacts to the movie. So that doesn't mean that you aren't safe, but it does mean that your body is seeing something and imagining a stimuli and responding to it. And we live in a world that for many of us, not for everybody, and this isn't at all to discredit people who do have experiences where they are not safe. But for many of us, you know, we're trying to predict an uncertain future. And what our brain naturally does is to predict the worst thing that can happen. And we actually aren't very good at knowing the difference between, well, that hasn't happened yet and might never happen, and, oh, that has happened or is happening now. So our body responds, you know, it has an emotional response.
I think, that's
so
great.
Acknowledging that, you know, we don't always need to, like, for me, you know, sometimes I'm driving and I'm imagining what would happen, you know, if the car broke down and I was late for work, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then my palms start to sweat and my heart rate goes and my breathing, you know, gets shallow. But that hasn't happened, and I don't know if it is going to happen, but suddenly I'm having an emotional response. So then am I going to show up to work, or am I going to, you know, walk into a classroom as if, you know, with my body responding as if the car had broken down? Or am I going to acknowledge that my body is doing a thing that it's its natural job and it's trying to keep me safe? And am I going to respond to that by saying, you know, like, I am safe. I'm going to imagine the ideal situation. I'm going to imagine getting to work on time. The car is totally fine. I'm going to imagine that I'll have time for coffee before class, and I'll have time to review my notes, and, you know, I'll be able to show up as my best self to those students. So not letting the emotions, you know, control how you behave, but always compassionately acknowledging that they are an important information for you. And the one thing just that I do want to make very, very clear is, you know, if you are experiencing intense suffering emotions over an extended period of time, the most loving thing to do is to reach out for help.
Absolutely. Well, I can't believe this is coming to the, I don't even know how it just time, like every time I do these chats, just time just goes by really quickly, but I want to thank you for your time. And I think this is such a big topic that I feel like it warrants like multiple other many other chats. But before we go, I also just kind of want to let everyone know, if you're interested in learning about Sarah's services or want to just kind of learn what it would look like to work with her as a client, you can go to her profile in the Holistic Panda and book a discovery call with her. But she's also going to be hosting a workshop at our wellness retreat. So everyone who is in Vancouver, if you haven't bought a ticket, today's actually our last day to get the early bird tickets, and they're selling out. I think we only have a few left. I think we only have like 3 or 4 left. But Sarah and her mom and colleague, Joanne, will be hosting an energy management workshop on the topic of taming your focus and building your capacity. So we're really, really excited about that. So thank you so much, Sarah. Any last thoughts that you want to share, or it doesn't have to be, but
no, that's awesome. I really, really enjoyed this, Diana. I always love talking to you, and I'm always energized by getting to work with people on energy management and building personal capacity. So thank you for this opportunity, and very much looking forward to the Wellness Day on the 25th.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sarah. We'll chat
thanks.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.